That's a segue to our topic for today, which is 10 AI use cases for volunteer managers, right? And so for those of you that don't know me, my name is Gung. I am one of the co-founders here at Civic Champs. We do volunteer management software. And yeah, we've been working on this since 2019. These are some of the other places I've been at before. So this is my third startup, but my favorite, as I've shared many times, because of the sector and the people. You guys have really made it very enjoyable for the last few years here. And I'm super excited to welcome my friend Zach, who is also the founder of Primetime. Zach, do you want to say hi and kind of introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey, nice to meet everyone. I've known Gun for about 10 years now. We met at business school together. Since then, I've worked in machine learning and AI at Google and YouTube and Snapchat. So, some of your kids' favorite platforms to work on. And then most recently, I was at a startup where we were building a AI recruiting agent, and now I'm building an AI agent that will work with other software developers. So lots of experience with AI when it was very nascent, and it is super, super exciting now, and very, very approachable. So excited to kind of talk through some of those things today.
Yeah. And so before Zach kind of dives in, a lot of people always ask some of these questions. So we'll kind of cover them up front here. We'll send you the slides and recording from today. So you can look forward to that. And then the presentation will be about 30 to 40 minutes. We'll leave room for Q&A. Feel free to put your questions in chat. Zach's actually asked me to kind of make sure I keep my eye out for that and maybe even interrupt him as he's going through the presentation, so that we can get to those in a timely manner. But we'll also have some time at the end as well. And yeah, that's kind of the notes. But with that, I'll kind of hand it back over here to Zach, and have you share your knowledge with us.
All right. Are you seeing my screen, Gung?
Yep. Yep, I
Great. All
see.
right. So here's the plan for today. We are going to very quickly do a little lesson into generative AI and how it actually works, because I think it's super interesting and it'll help understand the kind of capabilities that we're going to talk about after that. Then I'll go into very briefly some of the folks who are providing AI options to you, just in case you have to leave early. You get the most, practical pieces out there. I'll tell you who I think you should use. And then we'll spend some time on 10 use cases that I think are really interesting and fun and that I use in my daily life. And I think that you could probably find ways to use in your professional and personal life. So let's get started then. So generative AI, everything we're going to talk about is generative AI, which just means that we are using AI to generate content. That might be words, that might be video, that might be audio. It is all kind of comes from the same core technology. And there's kind of four words that I think best describe this, and we'll go through them. You've probably heard these in the media. You may know what they are, you may not know what they are. LLM, token, inference, and multimodal. So LLM is kind of this class of all of these models that we're looking at are really large language models. They work on language. And what they're doing is given a set of words to start, the cat sits on the, they're predicting what is the next word. That's all these things do. And it's kind of crazy that intelligence emerges from this cascading set of guesses of what the next word is. So this diagram kind of nicely shows that if you started with the phrase "the cat sits on the model is just looking at what is the next word that likely comes after that. Is it mat? Is it sofa? Dog? Refrigerator? And it's just predicting this. And so we call them large language models because they learn from a large set of examples. But I actually lied. They actually don't guess words. They guess tokens. And this is really weird. Tokens are parts of words or full words. So this is a good example here. Subword is actually two tokens. So models think in these tokens, not in words. And yet it still leads to all of these incredible intelligence-like things that come out of it. This is a very weird concept. Inference And so this kind of gets at how these models work. You hear about, Elon Musk just spent $500 million training a model. What like that is so much money. What are they actually doing? What they're doing is they're putting in a bunch of examples into this model. And this model is just math. Like I could show you a paper of how this model works. You could do these calculations on a sheet of paper. It is nothing complex, but you do it enough times and you reward the model when it does good and you punish the model when it does bad, and it eventually figures out and these predictions emerge out of it. And so that's training. Everything we're going to do today is nothing related to training. We're going to do only inference. An inference is when you put something in and you infer an output. So we put in a picture of a car, it runs through all of this math, and it spits out the word car on the other side. So that's inference. And then the last piece here is multimodal, and we'll make use of this today, which is the idea that models can work across different modes. So they can take text, they can take images, audio and video, and they can mix and match which ones they take in and which ones they take out. And this is kind of technology that's only really come out in the last year or two, or commercialized in the last year or two. And I think it's where some of the most exciting stuff is happening. All right. So let's talk about the different providers that are out there. You've probably heard of a bunch of these names. Everyone has a $20 a month plan that you could buy. Which one should you buy? Some people have multiple. Some people, just stick to the free ones. Here is kind of my very opinionated take on this. ChatGPT is the best generalist out there for most tasks that you will want to do. It probably does it the best and the easiest and the fastest. They are building very good products. Gemini from Google is very fast. Increasingly is becoming one of the favorite models of folks out there. You may have this for free or included with a Google Workspace if your companies are using Google Work Suite. That's the word I'm looking for. Another nice thing here is that Google will never use your data to train their own models, whereas ChatGPT might. Claude from Anthropic is loved by software developers. It is very good at coding. It also has a consumer product that you might want to look at. I kind of think of it as a lamer version of ChatGPT, though. So I'd probably use ChatGPT over Claude for you guys. Perplexity basically is doing web search, and so all of their information is very fresh. They are very good at getting you information and data based in like current events. So if you do a lot of web searches, if that would be something that would be important for you, this is like a Google replacement, Google search replacement. And then the last one that I have to mention is Grok. This is the model from Elon. They just spent the most money ever on a model, $500 million to train this thing, which is crazy. Their version is $30. If you like Elon, you might like this. If you don't like Elon, you probably won't like this. But I have to include it because it is a pretty good model, actually. And then one other thing, when you're going in and you pick one of these and you start using it, just know that each of these companies actually has many models. And some of them are better at thinking, some of them are faster, some are more creative. So, just you can play around with it and figure out which one's right for you. But just know that there is this kind of a trade-off between thinking and how good an answer is and how long it takes that answer to come out. All right, that's kind of all the academic stuff. Let's go right into 10 use cases that I have used. I've used all of these within the last month. Hopefully you find something in here that will apply to your daily work. So I think the most obvious one is help in writing. We spend a lot of time writing. It's often very helpful to have feedback while you're writing. But I personally like writing. I'm very loath to give up writing and being able to put my thoughts on paper. But I find AI to be particularly helpful where you can pick and choose which stages you want help at. So there's some things where I need more help on ideation. I know I need to write some blogs this month. I have a couple ideas. I would really like help generating more ideas. And so you can, ask for, generate a list of blog ideas, feed in past posts, feed in maybe have it look at some of your emails recently. Is there anything in here that kind of inspires a post that could go out, social media, blog, whatever it might be? Sometimes you might have an idea of what you want to write, but a topic you want to cover, but actually turning that into an outline that flows. Sometimes I get stuck here, and so that's a good place to work on it. Or if I already have the outline, asking the agent to go and actually write a first draft of the blog post for me. I don't love this all the time because sometimes the writing just doesn't sound like me. We'll talk next about how to address that. Um, but once you have something written, I use the AI a lot to tweak that writing, and particularly improving the readability. So how do you knock down the grammar level, the complexity of word choice, make sentences shorter? Like how do you make it more readable for users, particularly in emails? Add more bullet points, whatever it might be, so you're not just hitting people with a wall of text. Um, and then the last, and I do this for every single web page I publish, is I send the AI to the website to go and actually read and give me feedback. Because once you're in that point, you can see the flow of a web page. And so what's really cool here is like the analysis that it's doing on your writing is so much more than what we're used to with spell check or grammar check. It's looking at across the entire page for consistency of punctuation. Am I using capital case in certain places? Am I using periods on marketing messages? And keeps all that. It'll tell you where those things aren't consistent. So if you spend your time writing, I think it is certainly worthwhile to improve your writing by feeding some of it into AI. It takes seconds. All right. I complained earlier that I don't necessarily like the writing style that comes out of some of these models by default. So this is from Claude. This is a message that I wanted to tell Gung that I've finished up this presentation and I want him to add his slide at the end. And we get this like very stilted um, text here. Hey, Gung, hope you're doing well. Just wanted to give you a quick update. I finished my part of the presentation. Could you wrap up your slides when you get a chance? No rush, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is not how I would write. Another thing to note is the AIs, for whatever reason, I don't think we don't know why this happens, but they love to use M dashes. And so you can often tell if there's a bunch of M dashes in text that was probably written by AI. So what I did here is I fed in my last 15 emails and had the AI distill a style guide of how I actually write. So I'm direct, I'm friendly. I use conversational punctuation, ellipses. That's definitely true. I actually do use a lot of M dashes and parentheticals, and I always sign things -Z. And so when now I ask the AI to rewrite this email using my style guide, and this is what came out. Hey, Gung, I'm set on my end. Could you finish your slide when you get a chance so we're ready to roll? Z. And this is like exactly how I would write. So this is a very short example. It's a toy example. I probably wouldn't have AIs send short emails like this yet, but you can do this for your own longer form writing, and you can get results that feel much more like yourself. Translation. So the technology that powers this like recent boom in AI came out of Google. It was called the Transformer, and they actually did it originally for language translation, and it just happens to be applicable everywhere else. Um, I'm always nervous about translation because I can't read the other language, and so like I can't get ground truth. I don't know if it's accurate or not. So I ran this quick test just to help everyone here get confidence. So here's the original news article headline or summary I pushed in. I used OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, to translate this from English to Spanish. Again, I can't understand this at all. And then I used Anthropic Claude to push the Spanish back into English. And I think we can all agree, there's 4 words that are changed here, but the actual meaning of the 2 paragraphs is untouched. Um, so translation, this is great. So how I was thinking you could use this if you have a bilingual volunteer group, you know, emails with English at the top, Spanish at the bottom. This is a very easy way to expand the reach there. My kids happen to go to a French language school, and so I use this a lot to translate emails from the school into English, so I actually know what their homework is. All right, a fun one, image generation. You know, all of these models are capable of creating different images. one popular thing that's come up recently is creating cartoons with these. I think it could be fun to include these in emails or newsletters. You can get, bespoke cartoons for next to nothing, which is super cool. So I'm going to use an example throughout this presentation, kind of where I imagine I'm managing volunteers at a cat shelter. And so I thought, hey, at the bottom, let's put a comic where here's the prompt: draw me a cartoon. Two cats sitting by a full bowl of food. One cat says, "We should really thank the volunteers. The refills are nonstop." And so you can see the different styles and quality of outputs that we get from the different models. So ChatGPT, got all of the words right. The style is very ChatGPT. If you ask for images over and over from ChatGPT, they will all look kind of like this. That kind of has come in response to criticisms that they were stealing styles of artists. So famously, people were, taking Studio Ghibli style art and doing a lot of things with that. And so they've kind of toned down on that. So you get this very vanilla animation style now. Google Gemini, I think, drew the best cartoon here, but the joke is missing. So now we just have a cat asking for more food, which is accurate in my experience with my cats. And then Grok also drew a pretty fun image here, some weird shaped cat food. But the letters here are just very weird. There's all sorts of artifacts here. So you could come in and touch this up with Photoshop or something. But yeah, it's very odd that these large language models, when they get to drawing images, are often quite poor at placing text. And then Claude. So again, my favorite developer-friendly one, doesn't know how to draw. It just makes images using polygons. So here's their version of cats eating food. Actually, this is funny. One of the first, when ChatGPT, kind of one of the first crazy stories that comes out of when they were building this model, they asked the model to draw a unicorn. The model's only been trained on language. It only knows descriptions of language. And it used code just like this to actually draw circles and sticks to draw what it thought a unicorn looked like. And that was like one of the first, that was a crazy moment for AI researchers. And then I would caution you, try not to make images of humans. It's always weird, so weird. We have people, missing hands here. Some of these people are duplicated. There's a very high set of twins on this playground. This guy's missing a leg. So they always come out kind of odd. All right, music. This is a very fun one. This is an area that is getting better almost every month. So you can generate music and songs from prompts or from images, actually. So this is the multimodal idea. Suno, I actually don't know how to say this, is my favorite. You can go, and I think for free you can have your first song made. So I would encourage you to go and try this. I will play you a song that I wrote here. I said I wanted a song to thank all the volunteers for helping at the adoption drive that we had on Saturday. And so, maybe you would play this before a staff meeting or include it in a thank you letter. But hopefully, here's our song.
I don't think this one played. You might have to reshare to share sound, Zach.
Not hearing it? All right, hang on.
Yeah.
Hang on. I got this.
You do it.
It's definitely worth hearing.
Share audio, the little checkbox, I think is how it.
All right, let's try that.
All right, here we go.
Give me a thumbs up in place.
Cats all around me, I can't get away. Kittens and seniors with nowhere to stay. 80 of them, my hair's turning gray. But they found homes on Saturday. I wanna.
It's a banger. It is shocking how good these things can get. It can write music in any style you want. You could remix this and have it turn it into a rap. It will give you multiple versions. It is very, very fun. You can also get 11 Labs has a royalty-free tunes. So if you want background music or you need them for um, social media or YouTube videos, whatever you're making, these are sources of essentially unlimited and tweakable music. So continuing on this audio theme, there's kind of two ways that this can happen. One is we can go speech to text and we can go text to speech. So let's talk about taking speech and turning it into text first. Note takers are pretty common right now. You've probably come across these in meetings. I was surprised there actually wasn't one here on the Zoom. Fireflies is very common. This is very well liked. This is the experience you'll have where you're in a Zoom or a Google Meet and there's another kind of black screen that enters and it says Fireflies. And that will record the meeting and then produce a transcript or notes for the attendees. Gemini, so this is Google's product. If you have Google Work Suite, you might have this already and you can turn it on. So all of our meetings at prime time are recorded. So we have access to them and it's very unobtrusive. Nothing joins. The meeting will just automatically be recorded and the text is available for you afterwards. Personally, I really, really like Granola. And so this is what's shown here on the right. I think I have a free plan for this. I've never paid for it and it's fantastic. So it will sit on your computer or your phone actually and listen to conversations. So it's your responsibility to tell the party that, hey, I'm recording this call. But it provides a very nice searchable database of all of your calls, and you can chat with the call to actually get information. So I might ask afterwards, hey, can you explain this concept that Gung was talking about? I didn't quite get it, and it will use the context from the call plus these models that we talked about previously to be able to answer questions for you. So Granola is a really nice product. And then this might sound weird. I think we will all be doing it very soon. But you can go hands-free chatbot with ChatGPT. So this is a voice-to-voice conversation that you have with the agent. I thought it was weird when I heard about it first. I have been using it while I drive to ask. If I'm listening to a podcast and I have questions about some concept, I will open up the voice-to-voice version and I will have a conversation with the agent and go deeper on certain topics. It is surprisingly good and doesn't feel that weird. So we can also go audio to text, which I think has a bunch of use cases that we're probably still discovering. 11 Labs is very good for this. They have tons of different voices that you can use. They've kind of trained them to use different intonations for different topics. So, if it's reading an audiobook versus reading news, you can kind of run through these and find the ones that are right. Some of the interesting things I've done here, I started creating a podcast for a while. I have always liked the NPR hourly news updates. I wanted something that was a little more tuned to exactly the topics that I wanted. So this was a podcast that I had generated. I generated a script every hour from a set of news feeds that I have. And then would have this agent read it and then publish it. So this is the podcast that I was making.
It's 1 p.m. in Los Angeles on Thursday, October 10th. Here are the headlines. In social media news, Blue Sky is gaining.
So, there's a lot you could do there if you need to create podcasts for any reason. This is a super easy way to do it. If you have videos, social media, you want to throw on narration, but you don't want to record your own voice. Everyone hates the sound of their own voice. I think these are getting very good and you could use them there. If you have, audiobooks or training manuals or, you need volunteers to be up to date on something, perhaps an audio version of that is a way to get more people consuming the content. I know I will use the audio options on news articles on New York Times often. So perhaps this is a way to boost the amount of reading you get there. These last two are a little more fun, but you can clone your voice now, which I don't particularly like my voice, but here's me cloned. So
This is a clone of my voice based on only 30 seconds of recorded speech. You can record up to 30 minutes of your voice and get incredibly good clones.
So yeah, I think it's pretty good. you can also then use that to dub in other languages. Oops.
Hola, este es el clon español de Zach. Qué lástima que no entienda nada de esto.
So I don't speak Spanish, but if you want to dub over social media content, this might be really good. A lot is possible now. All right, let's get out of audio. So design. So you can do this for graphics, flyers, whatever you need. I happen to do this for a t-shirt. My nephew and my son were hanging out and they decided that they were the boys that stay up late. They had a chant. They loved it. We had a really great weekend. So I wanted to make them shirts. And so I fed this prompt in, give me a design to put on a cream t-shirt. It should say, "We are the boys that stay up late. I want similar vibes to this image." And so I sent a picture of a shirt that I happen to like. And this was the final result. I'm wearing it today as well. So this took 15 minutes of work, and I got out of a shirt that I think is just absolutely fantastic, and it's one of my favorite to wear. So I think this is the thing here is you can make shirts for your volunteers that they are going to want to wear every single day. You can get that really high quality level of design. It just takes a little bit of thinking through. And so here are my tips. One, give inspiration. So find designs, one or more that you would like the shirt to be similar, the graphic to be similar to. We're not trying to rip anyone off here, so you might want to give multiple, but it helps pick fonts and kind of vibes. Two, you've got to review these things very carefully. We are the boys that stay up lat. Somehow we missed an E here in the initial version. So I had to say, okay, almost perfect. The last word is misspelled. But then we lost, we are the boys. We lost boys. There's no boys here. So you kind of have to iterate a few times and, give advice and push it in the way you want. Ultimately, I ended up liking this first drawing a lot. So I just went into Photoshop and grabbed an E and put it in here. And I ended up with this last design. The only problem is it was still on this cream background and I needed it on the transparent background. So I actually asked ChatGPT just to remove the background and it did that no problem and got this transparent PNG. I sent that to a t-shirt manufacturer and all four of us had shirts a week later. So this was very easy to do. I'm really, really proud of what came out of this, if you can't tell. All right. Custom GPTs. This is probably the most useful thing in this presentation. It is a little bit complicated, but it is certainly something you can do. And so what this allows you to do is you'll be able to create a chat agent and publish it so that your volunteers could talk to this chat agent. And the big thing here is you can power it with whatever knowledge base you want. So if I was running a cat shelter and I had a bunch of volunteers, we can put all of the policy documents, the instructions on how we interact with cats, what are the requirements for adoption, any 50 documents, whatever it might be, our whole corpus of knowledge that our most senior volunteers would be aware of. You can put it into this agent. The agent will read all of the information and pull it into its memory. So it's not training on this. It is not taking this data and feeding it back into the models, but it has it all in its memory and it's able to recall it very easily. And then this is the kind of experience that a person would see. They wouldn't see what's on the left side here. That's for you, but they see what's on the right. And so now they can engage and ask questions of this volunteer. And because it's rooted in the documents, it hallucinates a lot less than a model would typically. So the version I'm showing you here is available through ChatGPT. It's called Custom GPTs. They're great. I've used them to train for tests before. I've put in study manuals and been able to ask questions about it. I've built, put in a bunch of financial documents from public companies, been able to ask questions about those public companies. This is a super, super powerful piece of technology that lets you do a lot of very advanced things that developers are doing without having to know anything about coding. So I'd say check this one out.
Zach, there's a question from Tracy.
Yeah.
What is the best program to write a volunteer handbook?
Ooh. So ChatGPT is very good for writing. Um, I would probably start there. They Claude Anthropic has this really nice project system where you can have kind of longer running projects, and it's similar to this. You could upload documents that you have. Maybe you have the last version of the manual, so you could upload that file into the project, and then Claude can create what it calls artifacts, which is essentially a document. And so it can have this really long document, and it can go through, and there's a nice interface to see as it's making changes. So that might actually be a really good Anthropic tool, or use of the Anthropic tool, Claude.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, workflows. So these have existed before AI, but they have now become incredibly powerful because you can use AI to kind of smooth over the rough edges. And so the idea here is if you have anything super repetitive and manual on a computer, moving data between places, copying and pasting, responding to emails, these are super powerful and could take a lot of work off of your plate. And so the way to think of these is there's a trigger and there's an action. So something occurs in some program, and then that causes an action to occur in another program. So an example of this might be you have a spreadsheet, you put in a new volunteer email into that spreadsheet, and then the action that you want to have happen is a onboarding packet is sent by email is sent to that email address. Um, you could also do this, when a form is submitted online, the email is then added to the list, and then the onboarding packet goes out, and then we wait 2 days, and if they haven't sent back a signed waiver, we send a reminder email. You can make these incredibly complex, but you can also make them incredibly simple and just take care of one task. Where now AI can step in here as well and can start to do things that are a little bit more custom. So if you get an email from a volunteer asking a question, you could have that routed to an LLM to write a response to that question. And then you have the ability to approve that, sit in your drafts until you send it. So you could build ways here to whatever you're doing the most of that you don't want to be doing. I bet there's a way that you can use workflows to be able to take away some of that work. Zapier is my definite recommendation to use here. They have thousands of integrations. And I would just recommend starting with kind of simple triggers and actions, and you can get into crazy branching complexities from there. All right, number 10. I'm going to hand this one back over to Gung to talk about.
All right. Some of you guys might know this topic already. It's a little bit newer in terms of AI, so I'll talk through it a little bit. But basically, it's vibe coding is this idea that instead of just using AI to help us generate art or music or largely words, you can actually use it to help you create full functioning applications, right? And so I'm going to share my screen here now again. And all right. So basically, there's different tools. We looked at two of them here. There's Lovable, and there's I think it's Replit, maybe. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then here's my process of how I use these tools, right? And so you come up with an idea, right? This could be really any idea. Something simple is a good thing to test first. And then I find one of the tricks is actually to ask ChatGPT on how I should share that idea with one of these platforms, right? So I like to use one called Lovable. And so what I do is I ask ChatGPT to create a prompt, right? Or to create like the instructions for Lovable with my idea. I also ask ChatGPT to ask me questions to say, hey, is there anything I'm forgetting here that I didn't ask you? And then I just copy and paste whatever that output is from ChatGPT, and I paste it into Lovable, and it creates an app for me, right? And so I'll give you guys an example here. We'll start with the end product. This took me 1 hour roughly of time. It took 3 hours in total, but lots of it was just kind of like playing mobile games on my phone while I'm waiting for it to do its thing, right? Um, but one of the things that Civic Champs does, right, is we help you track your volunteer hours, and we have we have a kiosk and a check-in kiosk, right? And so I said, could I replicate something like that, right? It doesn't, it's not going to do all the things. It doesn't have waivers. It doesn't, connect with the back, all the other things. But if I was a small nonprofit and I just wanted to have a kiosk to check in volunteers, could I do it, right? And so this is what was generated. And if you're a brand new volunteer, right, you can register. You could say, Zach, I'm going to make you one of my guinea pigs here, right? Email optional, phone optional. And by the way, it actually asked me as I was making this, like, hey, do you want to ask them if they want to be signed up for newsletters? I was like, sure, great idea. Right. So register and check in. Boom. Zach is checked in. Da 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 da. Right. And at the end of the day, I go to checkout. I can find Zach and I can check him out. Right. Super simple. Right. If they're coming back, I can come here. I can find them here. I could search. Right. So let's say it's my wife, right, Stephanie. I'm gonna check her in. Right. Welcome back. Check in. Boom. And the really cool thing is it even created in this amount of time an actual admin dashboard for me, right? And so you have, total number of volunteers, how many active, how many sessions, all the activities here, right? Here's Zach, here's Stephanie. Here's all their data, right? This is all fake, of course, right? You can, write over it, you can remove them. A lot of this I actually didn't design. It just kind of came, it just like it knows like what's good practice and sort of, gave its own kind of best effort, if you will, right? And you can even export all of this, right? I said, hey, I want to select a date range to export all my data. I could go back to kiosk. There's even settings to change my password, right? Like all this really, really, I can show or not show emails. And so the thing is, you can, as you're creating, you can make edits. And so let me show you how the prompt, right? So like taking a step back. So this is what I put in ChatGPT. I said, pretend you're an expert level user of the software Lovable. I actually misspelled it and it didn't it didn't matter. Right. I want to ask Lovable to create an app for me that will allow volunteers to easily check into a kiosk. We need the app, da 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 da, to find themselves and check in for new volunteers. I want a list. And so I just kind of came up with as much as I could think of, right? And then at the end, I said, please create a structured prompt I should use with Lovable to create this app. And then I said, let me know if there's any details I'm missing that I should ask for, right? And so it thought for 9 seconds and it spit out this whole thing, right? And at the end, it's like things I'll provide to remove, fill these before you run the prompt. So, which fields, time zone, da da da. And so I just went through and answered the questions, right? They're like, hey, do you want to deduplicate based on email? Do you want to how do you time zone to display, right? Da da da. And some of the things, if you don't know, it doesn't matter. You could just say, whatever. Use your best judgment, and it'll be fine. And then it came up with a different prompt. And I did this for a couple times where it had a couple more questions. And then I just copy and pasted this into Lovable right here. Right at the top, I just pasted this. Right. Here, I gotta keep going to the top. Right. Da da da. Keep going a little bit more. All right. So I literally just copy and pasted it. I know, some of this was actually a little technical and I didn't understand it, but that's fine. And then Lovable was like, hey, I'll build this very beautiful touch-friendly thing, da 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 da. It said, hey, I need to fix some security settings. Do you want me to do that? I was like, yes, sure. And you fix this? I said, yes, sure. And then finally, I asked, I had some edits, right, that I needed it to do, right? And so I asked it to do some of those. Yeah, please finish the rest of the app. So I did that. And then let me find one of my prompts. Yeah, please perform a security review. And then implement approved actions. Yeah, And then here was one of the bugs I found, right? So it shows you like a live example, you can play around with it. And one of the things I noticed is the Ashmore dashboard or admin features do not load after the admin has signed in, right? So I like try to sign in, it didn't load anything. I was like, please fix, right? It's like, oh, I need to, I'll do this and I'll fix it. And so all in all, though, this took about 3 hours, but a lot of it was just waiting for it to do the things while I was kind of sitting there and watching. But super fun to make. So much fun, in fact, that I recently created a new little app here, right? And so I think I have a password here. And so what I made is a dashboard. And so I'll actually share this out with our Civic Champs customers here in a little bit after I fiddle with it some more. But basically, you can like you could download your data from Civic Champs, and then you could upload it here, right? Drop 2 of the files that we have. And then right now in the app, we don't actually have a lot of graphs, right? And so instead of asking our engineers to create a bunch of this, I thought it might be better to have folks try it out and see what things they like, what things are we missing, right? So this for us is a great way to iterate, right? As well to say, hey, let me put something like really simple out there. Does anyone use it? Does anyone find value in it? If so, we'll bring it into the app proper. But this tells you things like, over time, how many hours, how many, sessions that people do on a monthly or weekly basis, right? What is your most popular activity by percentage, a little pie chart. Volunteer frequency, right? So, how many times your volunteers volunteer with you, right? There's only one volunteer that does 25 to 29 sessions in whatever time range this is. Others that only do, less, right? And this is all fake data. But I thought it was great, right? It could do all of the, cohort analysis. And so I'll fiddle with this, but this probably also took me, while I was working, just normally on the side, I would just ask it to fix little things. And over the course of the day, you could create something like this. So anyway, super exciting. I loved it. Zach was actually instrumental in pushing me to try this out, which I've had a lot of fun with. Right? So, all right, we'll come back here. And so, yeah, Zach.
Yeah, I'll close it out here. And I think actually, Doug, that was perfect. Like, I think everyone needs a little bit of a nudge to start using some of this stuff. So, my first thing today, Gung, if you click once here, these have dramatic animations. So, if you don't have one of these LLM providers, I would really encourage you to try one. I mean, I think you can try them all for free, but I'd encourage you to get a plan and try to use it on a regular basis. So today, go and get one of these. Tomorrow, just find one task that you can speed up or improve with AI. Writing is probably a really good starting point. And then over the weekend, do something that you never thought you could do. Write a program, do some graphic design, write a song. Like go see how far you can push the limits here. Because I find once you kind of break through that one wall, you just see a bunch of walls that need breaking through from there.
Yeah. And super, super fun. Do it with your kids.
Yeah. Kids
Super
love this stuff.
So, all right. I'll do a quick wrap and then we'll tackle. Oh, actually, I see someone in chat here. Thank you, Gung and Zach. Oh, thank you. Yeah. And real quickly, just before I would be remiss just to at least let people that are new here know what Civic Champs does. We are a volunteer management platform. And so we help from everything from recruiting to onboarding, scheduling, engagement, reporting, and retention. We do have our own kiosk. It's even better than my 3-hour version. It has waivers and all the other things, right? What we're known for, we're best value, which means we're underpriced, and we're best ease of use, right? In terms of it's both easy for admins and easy to use for volunteers. This is an example. This is one of our mobile apps, our mobile app, right, to help people with check-ins here. You can see it's really easy. You could kind of tap what you're here for, things like that. You can collect feedback with Civic Champs, which I think is great. And then we have really nice dashboards to get kind of the data you need. We don't have as many graphs obviously, which we talked about. And then we have integration partners. So if you work with one of these folks, we integrate with them and we'll share their data or your volunteer data into your donor database. So if you want to stay in touch, reach out to Zach or myself.